Welcome to OkState Daily. Casey Porter here, joined by Chase Whitwiska. Chase, we've had a little bit of time to sit down and chew on the heartbreaking loss Friday night and everything that happened. So give us your initial thoughts.
Yeah, my first thoughts are Garrett Rangel. Actually, he looked pretty good.
Yes.
So maybe I could be wrong about him. I don't want to go too far and say that he's the future of the program. Unfortunately, with what my guess would be is a broken collarbone, I don't think we'll see him again this year, which is kind of unfortunate because he looked comfortable and he looked good, and he looked kind of like what the offense needed, which is a mobile quarterback. And I texted you multiple times during the game. I really like the way that the ball comes out of Rangel's hand.
Yeah, no doubt.
It comes out fast, and it comes out with high velocity. It looks like a confident throw, and I think that's what I don't like about Alan Bowman is everything is lobbed, and yes, it may have to do with his arm strength, it may not, but the way that Rangel went about, I mean, he only threw 9 passes, but the way that he went about those passes, they look like there was conviction when he threw the ball. And it's not really used to what we're seeing, at the quarterback position. And then he ran the ball really well, which really opened up the game for Ollie. You have to have a mobile quarterback in this offense, and if you don't, you're not going to be very successful.
I think another thing you saw too was just a passion that he brought to this Oklahoma State offense that was a little bit different. I think a lot of times Coach Gundy, the Spencer Sanders, that type of fire, he's not real big on it, especially at the position of quarterback, because he wants somebody who's a little bit more cerebral, somebody who can think, through emotional moments. Mason Rudolph was very fiery too, but I just loved the fact that Garrett Rangel, even after the interception, I mean, you could see he was just sick to his stomach. He was like, I can't wait to get back on the field. I just screwed up. I can't wait to make up for that. Just the passion and fire was something that was refreshing for me to watch.
Yeah, and I understand the level-headedness. If we use baseball terms, it's 9 times out of 10 a good pitcher is really level-headed.
Even keel, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of more of what Coach Gundy prefers, and I think that's because that's more of his personality. I would say is just a little bit more level-headed and even-keeled. Rangel, I mean, if you go back, there were some highlights posted, his high school highlights. He plays with a lot of energy and a lot of passion, and with today, with the kids that you play with today, people follow that. The level-headedness now, I'm not saying back a few years ago, but the level-headedness now is like, do you really care? And that's hard to rally behind. But when you have an emotional leader, in positive emotional leader, not coming in and slamming your helmet against the bench and all that stuff, that's completely different. But when you have a guy that's fired up to play, that's a lot of fun to rally behind and get behind and play for, as opposed to a guy that's just kind of there.
He's got a lot of follow me boys in him, to me. I mean, this dude has a lot of leadership in him.
Yeah, and that's what you need at the quarterback position, and especially at Oklahoma State, man. You're whether you like it or not, you're kind of the head of the team. Yeah. I mean, and that comes, and I said at Oklahoma State, but that comes at any Division I, really any school. Period. If you're the starting quarterback, the spotlight's kind of on you. Mm-hmm.
And I'll say this too, and you'll probably disagree, and that's fine. That's what makes these shows fun, right? But I think Friday night, last year with producing the Doak Walker Award winner, I think it goes to show when Oklahoma State runs the right run scheme. Charlie Dickey is actually a really, really good offensive line coach. He gets dumped on because we don't run the right type of run plays. Many different times we're trying to pull guys that have had 2 surgeries. They're getting outran by 9 techs, and it's like there's no way schematically that play can work. But we saw the zone away stuff, like zone one way, cut back the other, and just kind of use the aggressiveness of the defense against them. So in Oklahoma State, we saw this again Friday. When they're running good run scheme that fits what their personnel can do, they can still run the ball. And then when they have a quarterback that can help balance the field.
Right, and I think that second part has a lot to do with it. And I'm not taking away from what you said by any means, because I agree with that.
Oh, really? Okay, good.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all, actually. But I think that Casey Dunn has about 2 to 3 to 4 good games a year, and the rest suck. This was
he had 5 or 6 last year, but
he's used one of his tickets this year, and it was on Friday. I think he called a good game on Friday.
Fantastic game from start to finish.
Yeah, and he called a great game on Friday. You got to give credit where credit's due, and that was a fun offense to watch. There's a lot of motion, there's a lot of moving. I enjoyed it with Rangel using his legs. That opens up the field so much, and people don't really realize that. With a mobile quarterback, which is where college football and where football altogether is moving. You look at even in the NFL with Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, guys like that. They're hard to defend. They're really hard to defend.
They're hard to keep healthy too, though.
They are, and
we saw that.
And this comes with experience. You have to know when to go down. If you saw the play where he got hurt, he starts to look over his shoulder, and he's like, okay, they're almost here. So he tucks the ball. Just fall over, man.
Yeah.
Just fall over.
Good point.
And I understand the competitiveness, and that's really hard. It's a hard thing to do and a hard thing to learn. But at the same time, it's just like, hey, just fall over, and that was his first game. He's like, man, I've got something to prove. And he did while he was in there, but now he's out of luck again. He's probably done the rest of the season. So I think, like, going back to what I said about Casey Dunn, he called a great game on Friday, and he did give them a chance to win.
I'm going to get roasted for this, but my opinion, and everybody has their own opinions. They're all like armpits, and they all stink, right? And mine is absolutely no different than that. Use whatever terminology there you want to replace armpits with, right? But I appreciated what Alan Bowman did for this team. He's been dumped on pretty good. Not saying he hadn't deserved every single criticism he's gotten. These guys make money, especially at the quarterback position. It is high-stakes football, and he hadn't played very good. So I'm not saying he didn't deserve all the criticism he had been getting, but he had been getting a lot. He'd been getting dumped on a lot. He came in a very difficult situation, made even more difficult by himself whenever he throws the first interception. And from that moment on, he won the game for OSU. He won the game for Oklahoma State Friday night. It's not his fault the defense can't hold 75 yards in a little over a minute.
I'm speechless. I don't know what to say to that. In my eyes, it's Alan Bowman. He's not good. In my eyes, he's a seventh-year senior quarterback, which I expect even more from. Did he play okay on Friday? Sure. But they also ran a scheme that wasn't fitting his play style. If you didn't, realize that, like, they were having to run the ball with him, and maybe he's not the most athletic quarterback. He's not the fastest. In my opinion, he's not the smartest. But had they been running that offense the whole year, yes, I know it doesn't fit his play style, but does he play a little bit better? Maybe. Because he did. They showed that they were going to run the ball with him because they had the install in for Rangel. So they kind of ran Rangel's offense.
And it was working.
With Bowman at quarterback, yes. But as time slowly went on, BYU was like, we don't really have to account for quarterback run. Like, if he pulls, okay, he's going to get 2 or 3 yards because he's just not very fast. And I think that's once they started back to Alan Bowman's offense and BYU adjusted, I don't think he was as successful as he was when he first came in.
We went on an 8-minute drive to win the game.
Minus the first interception. Yeah, but a lot of that had to do with the ground game. I feel like.
OSU running the ball?
Yes.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. They were able to continue to run the ball with him in there, right?
Right. I'm more concerned about more concerned about the pass game than I am the run. Obviously, I don't want to take away from it because he did make some passes when he needed to make throws. He made them for the most part. And I think at this point now, if he were to play anymore and if he were to play the rest of the season, he's got nothing to lose because he doesn't really have anybody behind him.
The pressure's off him,
Right.
Yeah, good point.
That may be another situation where you may see him elevate his play, but it's like, well, that's great, dude, but we're fighting to play in a bowl game now. Like, at that position, you have to be able to handle a lot of adversity. You have to be able to handle a lot of pressure. You have to be able to handle all these different things that are thrown at you, and I don't think he does a very good job of that.
This year, or
this year? Last year.
Did you think he handled the adversity Friday well? Kind of. Let's go just like one game at a time here. I'm not disagreeing whatsoever. The Alan Bowman thing this year just hasn't worked. I've said that many different times, and we're probably beating a dead horse with that. But just on a Friday night basis, you can't take the first interception away because it's there. I mean, it happened.
Right.
But having said that, after the first interception, I mean, the dude goes 11 for 19, 85 yards with a touchdown catch. He ran the ball 2 or 3 times for 7, 8, 9, 10 yards, and he led the team on an 8-minute drive to win the game. I find it very hard, even for OSU fans that are just anybody but Bowman, which I understand those people because the situation OSU's in, a 7th-year quarterback leading you to whatever meaningless bowl is not what we want to have as far as expectations as OSU fans. I'm in that boat, right? Trust me, so I understand that. I just think for what he did Friday, Oklahoma State fans should be appreciative for Alan Bowman for that single performance.
I don't disagree, but I'm not 100%, fully. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Does that make sense?
Yeah, now if you want to say go with Malalake Smith from now on, I'm totally on board with that. I'm just saying this one night. That's
understandable, and I'm on the play the freshman train now.
Yeah, I am too.
I don't know how many games do they have left.
Well, they are now 3-4, 7, so they have 5 games left.
5 games.
Actually, they're 1-4 in my opinion. In my mind, they're 1-4.
Yeah.
I mean, Tulsa and South Dakota State. South Dakota State, I watched them lose last night to North Dakota State, which North Dakota State's, they're one of the better FBS 1AA teams, but still they're the 1AA, man. So
right.
Come on. Of the teams that Oklahoma State had a chance to lose to, they've lost 4 out of the 5 games, in my opinion, this year.
I don't disagree, and I also I might make some people mad when I say this, but they really shouldn't have beat Arkansas. I mean, that was just a poorly managed.
Did they, or did Arkansas beat Arkansas?
Arkansas beat Arkansas. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Is Oklahoma State should not have beat Arkansas. So in all reality, have they really won a meaningful game yet? And I am not taking away from beating Arkansas because that's a good team. It was just a poorly managed game by their coach. They beat themselves.
Yeah.
We'll take it. We'll take the win.
Of course, it's still a win.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's never not going to be a win at Oklahoma State, right?
Absolutely. My opinion, what I think they should do going forward is I think Alan Bowman should play against Baylor, and then I think you play the freshman the rest of the year. That way he keeps his red shirt because they're allowed to play.
And it's not on the road against a team that's hot right now. Baylor all of a sudden is scoring points, all right?
Right, and I'm okay. I'm okay if he goes into a little bit of a tough situation. If he goes into a Baylor where they're hot and they are scoring points, I think that would be good for him to grow. But I think it's important for him to keep his red shirt. So I think you go with Bowman, and you really hope he gets through one more game, and then you say, hey, thanks for all you've done. We're going with the freshman. Love to have you, and keep you on the sideline in case anything happens. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. That's my honest opinion of how I think they should go about it for the rest of the year.
And OSU continues to either have to play guys that aren't healthy, or they continue to lose guys that just can't play all in all. The loss of Nick Martin is just absolutely gigantic because, hey, I mean, Kendall Daniels, we'll get into him here in a minute. Jeff Robertson, I love his effort. He gives everything he can for the front of his jersey, but he's just not that guy that's going to spy the quarterback like Nick Martin can. And we've seen that affect this defense. So I think, one, we've seen injury take a toll on this team, but that's an excuse. Let's go back to that armpit comment. Excuses are like armpits. They all stink, right? I mean, it is what it is. You got to have next man up. But Oklahoma State has shown they can't do next man up this year. And I think that falls back into the not very good recruiting. And we're looking at a not very good recruiting year again this year. Yeah,
it's a tough pill to swallow. Part of me wonders if, yes, they didn't have a whole lot of success as far as I know, they haven't had a whole lot of success in terms of recruiting this year. I wonder how heavily they
started out strong and they've lost some commitments.
Yeah, I wonder how heavily they're going to rely on the transfer portal. And I'm not going to blame them for it. I'm not going to be mad about it, because in this day and age of college football, that's honestly, it's kind of what you have to do, and if you want to be successful year in and year out, I don't think you're going to do that with high school guys. I think you're going to do it with guys that have experience, that are in the portal, and that want to come to Oklahoma State and have a chance, have a chance to not only compete at a high level, but play, and they're very capable of doing that next year. I do like the Rodney Fields kid that they got.
He's good. I told you that, man. That good.
And that's the first time that we'd seen him was in Provo, and he's impressive. He looks good. In my opinion, I think he's probably their number 2 back. I'm not a Vailahi fan. I don't think that he's not what Oklahoma State needs at running back. I'll just leave it at that. I don't think he fits. I like the Rodney Fields kid. He's fast. He's shifty,
decisive. He hits the hole.
Yeah,
that's the thing about him. He hits the hole,
and he can be physical when he needs to.
That's because he hits the hole,
right? And he's not very big. Kind of reminds me of a little bit of like a Deuce Vaughn. He might be a little bit bigger than Deuce Vaughn, but just a fast, shifty guy that, like you said, is decisive and will just run. He'll just run, as opposed to the patient game or anything like that. He's like, all right, there's my hole, I'm gone. And if I get 3, great. If I get 36, great. It doesn't matter. I really like him. I think he's going to be really good.
Oklahoma State fans will remember this guy. He reminds me of Gerald Hudson. That's the exact running back. Remember, Gerald Hudson led the nation in rushing in 1989, is probably the most underrated Oklahoma State football player. As a matter of fact, I'm going to release my interview with Jay Fleshman, who was a fantastic safety, late 80s, early 90s, and I asked him about Gerald Hudson, and he had a lot of great things to say about him. That's who Rodney Fields Jr. reminds me of. A little bit of Andre Richardson, kind of going back into the old school running backs that Oklahoma State has had. Just that shifty, but yet strong, very decisive, good running, a good zone back. That's how I would classify him. Oklahoma State, though, I'll tell you another thing about them is that they just continue to show that they have a massively deep receiver room, which, one of the arguments against going fast, obviously, is if your defense isn't good, then you're going to be putting them out there on the field way more than you need to. And then if your quarterback's not executing and you're going 3 and out, boy, that's really a disaster if you're also playing fast. But one of the biggest arguments Mike Gundy's made is that you have to have like 9 receivers, because to play fast, you're going to wear them down, right? I mean, they can only play a certain amount of plays, going at that type of tempo, and just kind of seeing some of these young receivers, it's like, dude, OSU has the depth at receiver to play however fast they want to, right?
Yeah, the Lofton kid, the King kid, both of those guys looked really good. Obviously, Presley looked good. Shetron looked good. Rashad Owens looked good.
Stribling's kind of a mystery right now.
Yes. I would like to see, and I know there's just a few games left, but I'd like to see Rashad Owens catch a few more footballs.
Like he did last year?
Yeah. I mean, he was kind of the dude last year. He was kind of their guy. And I like the Josh Ford kid, too. If they use him right. If they use him right, he's really good. He's really good. I'm a big fan of his, but they have a lot of receivers, and that is kudos to Casey Dunn. He's the receivers coach. He's the one that recruits the receivers. He's the one that goes out and gets them. That being said, and I texted you and I said this couple nights ago, but I think next year's kind of the perfect time to not quote unquote rebuild, but start over, and that's from both coordinator positions. That's, I think next year is the perfect year to do it because you're going to have an influx. I mean, there's going to be a ton of new guys coming in. So it's going to be a new system. It's going to be all these guys are going to have to get used to it and learn it and stuff like that. I think it's the perfect time to do it.
Complete reset throws you. I mean, you're going to have so much influx of guys leaving because, hey, you know this, Chase. When your college coach leaves and a new guy comes in, that new guy didn't recruit you.
Right.
He doesn't have your back.
Right.
So even if they like the new guy coming in, there's still going to be some people leave just because of that factor. So it's a much messier process to remove your coordinators than just to say, hey, we need somebody calling new plays. It's a lot more of a dicey, risky proposition than that, in my opinion.
If you hire the right guy, and I have one guy in mind, if you hire the right guy, I don't think you're going to run into that issue just as bad, at least offensively. Defensively, I'm not sure, but offensively, I know who I would like to be the offensive coordinator. I know who I would like to fill the shoes of Casey Dunn. And if they were to go get that guy, I don't think there would be a problem.
Who's that?
That'd be Kel Gundy.
Oh, wow. Well, you and I couldn't be on more different. And when has he ever coordinated an offense?
I think,
wow.
I think he has the mind to do it, and he is.
But
such
what proof do you have? I mean, you're saying you want experience, and experience. I mean, one of your big themes is experience. You're going to get a guy that has zero experience ever coordinating an offense.
I'm okay with it. You're going to call me crazy. But I see it. I just see it working. I think it makes sense. I think that while there is no experience in terms of calling plays and stuff like that, I think that him and Mike obviously are going to be on the same page.
I think they want to be brothers, though. I don't think that's even going to be a consideration.
I don't know. I really don't. I think, to me, it makes sense. Like I said, to me, it makes sense. And it may not to anybody else, and that's perfectly fine. If nobody wants to agree with me, then that's my hot take. But
yeah, no, understand.
I think he'd be a great receivers coach. I think he's a fantastic recruiter. He's a really good recruiter. So you lose. He
was. I mean, he's never had to recruit to the transfer portal. He's never had to recruit to NIL. He's never had to kiss players' ass because they have the power over him and that kind of thing. He's never had to do any of that.
Right. And I maybe that's a learning curve, but I think that he would be good for Oklahoma State football. I really do. I think that he fills, like I said, he fills that the shoes of Casey Dunn in terms of recruiting. He fills the shoes in terms of being a good receivers coach, which he's proven to do.
He was a running backs coach at OU, right?
He coached receivers some too.
Okay.
But like I said, to me, it makes sense. And I don't know if anybody else agrees with it, and that's okay. I don't really care. But I would love to see that. I think it would be great for Oklahoma State football. And it's probably a long shot, to be honest with you. But I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be a good move.
Well, I mean, Mike wouldn't even play his own son at quarterback. I just don't. The part, I think he loves Cale being his brother, and he doesn't want anything to get in the way of that. I think that aspect of it right there would nix any idea of Cale Gundy, and then the fact you're hiring a guy with no. Of course, they did that with Todd Monk, and it worked out very well. But hey, let's move to the defensive side. That's an interesting take. The Fire Nardo, whatever. I mean, I can't push back against that anymore. It's gotten really bad. I mean, it's really, really bad right now as far as the defense goes. I personally, I like the guy. I think he has good X's and O's. I think he's a good young coach. I think there's external factors that are leading to some issues, and we'll get into them here in a minute. But the bottom line is, though, period, end of discussion, players are in position to make plays. They're either not turning their heads and finding the football when they're in zone or man coverage, or they're not getting off of blocks, or the main thing is they're just not tackling, man. I mean, this is the worst tackling team I have ever seen, it seems like.
This is the most frustrating defense that I've ever seen, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They give up big plays. It's because they don't tackle.
Yeah. They don't play the ball in the air. It's kind of crazy.
They just look lost. I mean, completely lost. Like they've never played the game of football before. Common sense. If you go into the last minute of this game, common sense says you've got to spy the quarterback with one guy,
which they did. Robertson just missed the tackle,
and you got to spy the right guy.
Yeah,
he's a good player. Plays hard.
He's not that guy in space.
He's not very fast. He's not a guy that's going to make an open field tackle for you. Could they have done it with a Kendall Daniels? Maybe, but he can't tackle either. Nobody can tackle.
So my question is who at that point?
I think you're better off with the Kendall Daniels because he runs better. That being said, Kendall Daniels would be the one that I would have chosen to spy the quarterback. And sure, maybe do you need him in coverage? Maybe. Then take the other dude off the field. Take somebody that can cover a little bit better off the field. I don't know. Obviously, you know what they're trying to accomplish. They're down by 4 points, and they've got to drive the ball 80 yards. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to pass deep, or they're going to run with their quarterback. Right. Figure out a way to stop it and keep them in bounds.
Figure it out.
It's not that complicated. He got out. I truly think he got out-coached in the last minute of the football game, and you can't do that. You cannot give up a 4-point lead.
Did you see the 3 missed tackles on the last play, though? I mean,
no, I did. I
mean, it's hard to. I can't. Again, I can't defend the results. I can't. But when literally your guys time after, of course, it's your job as a coach to get them to learn how to tackle,
exactly,
or to want to tackle. I mean, so it always comes back to you, but. I mean, just when guys are tackling like that, it's just what defense do you call? I mean, we play man, they get run off, and quarterback scrambles. We miss one tackle. We play zone like we did the last time with a spy. Your spy doesn't tackle the guy because he thought he was going out of bounds, and then they throw it downfield against your zone. They hit pockets, and then you don't tackle. I mean, it's like what scheme? The out coach part of it, I don't know about from a schematical perspective because. I mean, just tackle the guy, right? I mean, if we tackle the quarterback, if we tackle the guy catching the ball, it's just that to me is the part of it to where I don't know what to fix if you can't tackle.
Right, but he is the head of that defense.
Sure.
He's got to teach them how to freaking tackle. And it's
I don't disagree.
All year long. He has got to motivate them to tackle. He has got to teach them how to tackle, and he doesn't do that. I don't know. I don't know what goes on in practice.
They did last year. That's what's weird. They did last year.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't know what goes on in practice because I'm not there. But the results that I've seen, even from the South Dakota State game to now, they are the worst tackling football team in college football. I mean, they're horrendous.
Yep,
and they
facts.
give up more big plays than anybody else in college football. I don't even count Kennesaw State. They don't matter. Who cares?
Facts.
I mean, they give up more yards than anybody in all of college football. It's horrendous. It is so bad. I mean, I'm almost more disappointed. I'm almost more disappointed in Nardo than I am Casey Dunn at this point. Yeah. And that's saying a lot because I haven't liked Dunn for years. So
here's your problem you got. Okay, is this a Brian Nardo or a Mike Gundy problem? Okay, well, I'm just going to throw this at you. Vance Bedford, Tim Beckman, who ended up being a head coach, Bill Young, who had an opportunistic defense in 2011, but eventually got fired. Glenn Spencer, we wanted him fired every year. Jim Knowles had one good year with super seniors. His first couple of years weren't good at all. So what defensive coordinator, what defense has been good since Mike Gundy's been the head coach? That's my issue.
I understand.
I mean, he's been here since 2005, right?
Right.
Okay, this is 2024, almost 20 years. We've had a defense that was opportunistic because they had an offense in 2011 that forced other teams' offenses to be in panic mode and make stupid mistakes. That's why the 2011 defense was so opportunistic, because the other team's offense was down 30 points and they were having to take chances, right? And then Jim Knowles had 2020, the COVID, he had all those super seniors and had a good year with them, yes. But other than that, the results weren't that good for Jim Knowles. That would be my pushback.
Yeah,
I think this is more of a Gundy deal than it is the specific coordinator as far as defense goes.
I can see your point. I can see where you're coming from. I just don't see him being that involved to make that big of a. I don't see him being that big of a decision-making piece in the defense. And I know I understand he's the head coach. I get it. He's an offensive-minded head coach, which means I think he's going to maybe to a fault almost trust the defensive guys too much.
I think he meddles.
I
think
don't
when he
know.
meddles, he doesn't necessarily know the right way to meddle on that side of the ball. And I think that's why you haven't been able to find any defensive coordinators that have had any success here other than a rogue year here or there.
Then he brought in the wrong guy in which I mean that this is he can run over Brian Nardo. I mean, he can. If that's the case, bring in somebody that like a Danner Holgerson who doesn't give two rats butts about you.
Derek Mason didn't give two rats ass about him, and he was terrible here at OSU, right?
Yeah, but you got him from Vanderbilt.
I mean, he's a well-respected defensive coach. I mean, Gary Gibbs is an analyst on that defense right now for OSU. Gary Gibbs is a really good defensive coach.
Then elevate him. You know,
yeah.
I don't know. That's
my problem with it is what actually, firing a coordinator, great. We've done that now. Bedford, Beckman, Young, Spencer, Knowles. This will be the sixth time. I mean, we didn't fire Knowles and Beckman, but still, I mean, it'd be the fourth time we fired a defensive coordinator, I guess. You can say fire your defensive coordinator, but past history has never shown that actually worked.
But also bring in the right guys on defense. You've done a decent job in terms of recruiting, in terms of Nick Martin, Colin Oliver, Trey Rucker, all of which who are hurt right now. Bring in more guys like that. Spend a little bit more time recruiting on the defensive end of the ball than you do the offensive side of the ball. Bring in the guys. And what I don't understand about Oklahoma,
they gave more. They've done that in the past. They've given more scholarships to the defense than the offense. Then what you ended up with was still having a bad defense and not a good offense. I mean, they've done all these things is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm getting in terms of recruiting is what I'm getting at is what I do. This is what I do. I'm at a junior college in northern Oklahoma in Enid, Oklahoma. I go for guys that I know I probably have zero chance of getting.
Sure.
But if I don't shoot my shot, that's my fault.
Understood.
Because I'm gonna get turned. If you give me 100 kids and I get turned down 95 times, but I get 5 absolute dudes, it was way worth my time.
100%.
Because those 5 guys are going to impact me and impact our team in such a major way. And then they're going to be like, God, how'd you get that guy? Mm-hmm. I recruited.
Yeah.
I went and did my job.
So Oklahoma State does that like they did it with some of the 5-star guys back in the past, right? And then on the day before signing day, they flipped USC. And now all of the 3-star guys that you need to actually develop and make your program solid, they're gone. And so now you're not even getting 3-star players. Now you're only running back recruit as Jeff Carr because all the 5-star guys that committed to you, they flipped on the last second. That's what's happened to Oklahoma State in the past. That's when you end up with a roster that really can't compete. What would you say to that?
My experience, a commitment doesn't mean anything. I get a commitment. I continue to recruit all the way throughout the process. They're going to
decommit and go somewhere else then. I promise you that.
I tried. I mean, that's
right.
You know, that sucks. That's what I think about it. But that's not going to happen every single year. Is it going to happen with some players?
At OSU, it will.
I don't
Absolutely, it will. As soon as Alabama or OU, somebody comes calling with NIL money, that's better than what OSU has. That's going to happen every single year, and probably almost every single kid that's in that boat, right?
Then you live out of the transfer portal and you recruit the transfer portal guys. I mean, there's so many different ways to go about it. honestly, high school recruiting at this point, in my opinion, is completely overrated because if the guy doesn't play his first year, he's just gonna leave anyways.
And to be honest with you, we've had a good conversation here. There's parts of me that feels better about this Oklahoma State team after Friday night. Then kind of I step back and I think, well, that's kind of a crappy deal because we're losing. We're 0-4 in the Big 12. So am I back to like 1993 where I have to feel good because we're playing close games and losing at the end? I mean, so I kind of go back and forth here. Where should I be as an Oklahoma State fan?
As much as it sucks, I think that's where we're at right now. You know,
the moral victory stage.
Yes, I mean, at this point,
wow.
what are we fighting for? You know, there's I don't care about going to a bowl game, man. Unless it's a college football playoff bowl game, I don't really care about it at this point.
Other than the practices are good because you get your young guys practice.
Right, but what I think that use these last 5 weeks as that. That's where I think we're at. I think that I'm upset. I'm upset with how the outcome of the game on Friday. I'm not as upset with necessarily the performance as a whole. They competed against a really good BYU team. That's
good team. They're not great. They're not better than OSU.
No, they're not. They're not. But
and OSU's way depleted right now, and I didn't feel like they were the.
They're playing better than OSU right now.
Good way to put it. Yes,
they are a better individual talent wise. No, are they a better team as a whole?
Yeah.
Yes.
Good point.
And that's what it's gonna take to compete at a high level. So I think you use these last 5 weeks as practice. You see what guys can do in different situations. You make sure you keep all the red shirts and all that stuff. I wasn't as upset with this loss against BYU as I was the week before with West Virginia. I'll leave it at that. But
it still goes down as a loss, right?
Right. I always want them to win.
Yeah, right.
I like how they played a lot. I really love how they played on Friday compared to last Saturday. Is what I'm saying.
On offense.
Yes, defensively they suck. They've sucked all year. I mean,
no other way to put it, man.
No,
no other way to sugarcoat it, man. That might sound negative. To me, it sounds like facts.
Yeah, I mean that's the stage I'm in, and if you don't know me personally, I'm not. Yeah. I'm just gonna tell you how it is.
Sure.
If you get your feelings hurt,
too bad.
Go to a corner and cry about it. I don't really care.
Yeah, get over it.
Yeah,
you know me better. That's why I love talking to you because you give it right back to me and I give it to you. Either one of us gives
I don't care, man.
Yeah, man, it's fun. You're one of the few that either don't just tell me to screw off or leave or whatever. You actually enjoy the back and forth, so it's kind of fun.
No, it's been good. It's been good.
Yeah. Hey, man, great job today. This has been a wonderful conversation. I think it's more so therapeutic for both of us as fans to get on here, spit a little bit of our venom, right? And then just kind of work through our thoughts and get to the end of it. And at the end of it, you know, there's one common theme to this. At the end of it, we're always still diehard Oklahoma State fans, right?
Yep.
That can't ever go away. There's no way that can ever leave me. That's in my soul, right?
No, whether we enjoy every second of it or not, that's just how it's going to be.